Going live. Hello, hello, hello. And welcome to the Empire Building Mastermind Hangout.
Major excitement.
April the 13th. Like, what's the date today? Yesterday was my anniversary, so today's the 13th. And
Happy anniversary.
we are together, and I think we're talking about just, more celebrating our successes today. And, maybe we'll, mastermind a little bit about why it's so hard for people to do that, because, what's the consequence? How do we suffer as entrepreneurs when we don't take the time to really celebrate our successes? So I think that is a good place to start. And welcome, everyone. So how was your week? Anyone have anything new and exciting to share? Is that Mark? Is your hand up?
My head is down, my hand's up. I was thinking. I'm in thinking.
Oh, you're in thinking.
I can't remember if I shared all that last Monday or not. Yeah, I did.
You shared a lot last Monday. You shared a ton.
Yeah. So ditto on that. It was a great week.
Awesome. Yeah. So
I can share something.
I would love to hear it.
I'm still waiting on our house deal is still live.
Yay.
It's taking like a really long time because we have to go through VA. We're getting a VA loan. So the appraiser appraised our house for $12,000 less than our contract price. And he put in the appraisal thing that there were no updates made to the home in the last 15 years, which is totally incorrect, because the sellers were like livid because they just put $50,000 into that house, remodeling the kitchen and updating the bathrooms and stuff, and they were like, what? Everybody says, and whenever I tell them, it's like, did he go to the right house? He did take pictures of it, so I know he went in the right house, but it's like, are you freaking kidding me? So we had to have him come back again and look at it to, double check everything, and he came back with the same appraisal value. So where everybody's like, no, that's just wrong. That is not right. So now we've sent it directly to the VA to be reconsidered, and that's going to take like 2 or 3 weeks. So we're being very patient and just being positive and just letting it be easy and starting to pack things up and
Good. Yeah.
praying. Please let it come back at the right price.
This is kind of a side, I don't know if it's a side note, but it kind of goes along with this. I think sometimes when things like this happen, like if you can think of it as a game, like, oh my gosh, I got to play this game to see if I can, get this thing to work out, or
right. Like a puzzle, like what do we have to do to make it work? That's what I've been doing. It's like my husband keeps getting frustrated, and it's like, no, it's like we just come up to this little tricky part, and we just have to okay, what do we have to move around? What do we have to think? What do we have to what to make it work? And then we just make it work, and then we get to move on to the next part. And
yeah, and so many people just stop themselves like right at that very beginning when they reach their first, like the first roadblock. They like just they throw their hands up in the air and they're like, I quit. This is just, it's not even that it's too hard. It's just as soon as they see one little tiny bit of opposition to what they want, sometimes they think it's a sign that they shouldn't have.
That's what I was just going to say. This must mean that we're not supposed to do it. It must be a sign that it's not our house. But then we've looked at it, and it's like, okay, well, how does it feel?
Yeah.
It still feels really good. It still feels right. So let's just keep going forward, and we'll just keep going until we can't go anymore. Every time we have a choice to make, we keep going, does it feel heavy or does it feel light? It still feels light. Okay, let's go.
That's awesome. What a great way to do it too, because that's the way we are designed to be connected. That's the true way we're designed to be connected.
With awareness, just being, and not trying to think it out and trying to think logically.
Right.
What should we do? But just trying to stay in awareness about it, and how does it feel?
Yeah.
Which answer feels correct? Which direction feels correct? And go that way, because there's so many things we don't know and can't predict, and
sometimes it's just like a timing thing, like there's just like it's not about it being the wrong house, it's just not exactly the perfect time, you know?
Right.
And once the
Right.
perfect time comes, it's like, oh, now I know why this, took this long.
Yeah.
We don't always see that, from the very
No.
beginning.
Not until afterwards.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you can look back on it and go, "Oh, that's why that didn't happen." Okay.
Oh, it's like everything, if we can get ourselves into that place of like being, okay, this is whatever's going on, this is developing my trust, right?
Right.
Trust in myself,
Right.
trust in infinite intelligence, and then move from there. I think that's a great example, so thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yay. Andrew, you have anything fabulous to share this week?
Mm. Well, I'll tell you, last week had just like a spectacular week.
Oh, great.
Yeah, just like it was just one of those easy breezy, light and effortless weeks, which was, I always welcome that.
Mm.
Yeah, and Dawn, I can't believe how much I'm actually enjoying being a part of Activate Your DNA group. And when I say that, I mean the whole having to post.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I love to be a part of the group, and I'm really enjoying posting now. My posts aren't overly long or lengthy, and maybe that will come, and maybe that won't, but
Right.
I'm enjoying just the posting.
That's the whole part of it. That's all it is
Yeah.
supposed to be, is just you sharing what you appreciate about yourself and with other people witnessing it without you worrying about the other people. That's the trick.
Yeah, like I don't even have you guys in my head, and I very much also have been so appreciating the posts that everybody else is posting about themselves, and and just that we're in this space together, that it is such a conscious part of my day now, which is a really great thing to be really like conscious of, finding that in which to celebrate,
Yeah.
right?
Awesome. And that's exactly what our topic of today, is about, is that celebration. Can we be in that state of celebrating, our life, celebrating our business, and how does it really affect things? And that's what I want to, that's kind of what I want to tune into today, is like, what changes when we celebrate ourselves and we give ourselves permission to just be like our own personal grand, supporter and cheering section, and doing it from a place of real consciousness and not of ego, and there's subtle differences, but I'm of the opinion that when you do this work and you just keep doing it, that the ego softens and you're like, oh, and there's this deepening to it that really touches who you really are, and that, it kind of unfolds this whole magic of, like, yay, celebrating yourself, yeah, and celebrating your business is not what we're told to do. We're told to be humble, not to celebrate. So
Well, may I just add just one more thing, Dawn, before you get into this?
yeah.
I had this like observation, I guess, last week with myself, and as I've immersed myself in the teachings of Abraham, and and in the exercises and the processes that Abraham suggests that we do. So even in that, keeping a list of positive aspects, which is very in line of the whole self-appreciation. I think the self-appreciation is just really taking it a few steps more in depth. But that was something that, again, too, as a society, we're not really, what's the word, encouraged, like, through the masses, to find those very little, the little things, and let's be appreciative for the little things, because I'm just going to speak for myself. You know, if there wasn't a big thing to appreciate, was there something to appreciate? Was an old way of thinking for me.
Right.
So, you know, being in this place of giving myself the permission to be aware and to make myself consciously aware and to really look for uh, and then to speak of and to be in that place of celebration and appreciation. And it really does make such a tremendous difference to the life that we live on a just on that daily basis. I know my days are very different now.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I agree. I think that we just don't give ourselves. I think that there's a lot of reasons why we don't. I mean, I just heard from somebody this week who said that they're that they had been taught to be humble, and what does that mean? Being humble in public is kind of what the message has always been. Be humble. um, don't and here's what happens in our subconscious when from what I have discovered over the year, a year and a half of doing this work, is that humility comes from this idea that we'll sabotage ourselves if we celebrate, right? That there's some kind of self-sabotage going to happen. Or, well, what if we,
Jinx,
what's that?
jinx. Like you're
Yeah,
gonna jinx it if you say something good about it, right? If you
yeah,
celebrate it and say something good about it, you're gonna jinx it. So you're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to say anything.
yeah. And I had this woman that came in just off the street, had never, I mean, say off the street, I had did a meetup group for almost 6 years, and it was just for the law of attraction. And somebody came in off the streets. I mean, she found the meetup. She came in, never had any real training about the law of attraction, but she had this amazing belief, meaning just crazy belief that everything she touched would turn to crap, pretty much. And she was like, if there was a disease to have, she would have it. If there was a tragic thing to happen, it would happen to her. I mean, this was her belief. And she came in and she was telling us that this was her belief over and over, and that nothing would change that because it was true for her. And me and the rest of the people that were in there, we just gently said, well, it's just a belief. You can really just believe the opposite of that just as easy. And I'm not kidding you, she took that to heart. Like, it just was like a light bulb in her whole world that was just like, you mean I can change that belief? And with her changing that, everything turned around for her. Everything on a dime, like in a day. And it wasn't anything that we did. It was just her being willing to change a belief. And that's kind of what
Change her
we're.
name from Midas to Dyer, or
What?
Crappy Touch, or what was it?
Mm.
Never mind.
No, I don't.
I'll go back to hiding.
Like Midas. I got it. Yeah. No, but oh, there's so many things that had happened to her, and she may eventually write her story. But Dory the fish,
Yeah.
she had the same kind of memory issue that Dory did at some point, and um, she ended up like kind of turning that memory thing around. But it was really, but even with her being able to turn the memory thing around, she still had this belief that anything bad could possibly happen would happen to her. And that was, so if she had a job, she'd lose it. If somebody's car would be crashed, it would be hers. And all these things all came true. If there was going to be, a break and entry would happen to her house. I mean, every single time, this was her reality. And, it's for her slowly beginning to be able to celebrate her life, and she's completely celebrates the fact that she turned it around just by believing something different. But that goes back to, I mean, I don't know if this relates to the humility thing, but she was just never taught that, belief is powerful and that you can really just turn your whole life around. We know the law of attraction works. Why wouldn't we celebrate? Why wouldn't we put energy onto our success, right? Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we just add energy to the good energy instead of adding energy to the bad stuff that's happening? Why would that make sense to us? But that humility piece. And then for me, I mean, growing up, somewhat intelligent, and I'm just saying for a lot of people, if you were intelligent and surrounded by people who weren't, you didn't want other people to feel stupid, so you would hide your gifts. And I think for a lot of people who have special gifts like intuition and if you have psychic abilities at all, you have to hide those things because they make other people feel uncomfortable, and that's never been the purpose of those gifts, to hide them to make other people feel better. They're always, all that stuff is, everything about us is meant to make the world a better place and make other people see themselves in more in a brighter light. So yeah, the humility thing though is, I think, one of the things that just stops people from celebrating, because we've been told so often that it's just not appropriate. Be humble, be quiet, don't draw attention to yourself was another one for some people. I mean, that was never my case, but I know people that was the message that they got. Don't draw attention to yourself, or they made that a part of their subconscious, a part of their reality, like around in middle school. Like, let's start to become invisible. So let's not draw any attention to ourselves. Let's not celebrate it when you get, do really well. Makes people uncomfortable sometimes to have extra attention, but we're just talking about celebrating your own success, like not even having to have anybody else know about it, but can we get into the habit of celebrating and appreciating our business? Can we celebrate and appreciate the gifts and talents that we've developed? Can we celebrate and appreciate the connections that we make without apologizing for it? So I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts of like stuff that stands in your way when you think about the idea of appreciating yourself, celebrating the wins, and not like, hey, it's my birthday, let's go out and party, but being deeply conscious and present and sharing that reverence for your own life with somebody else.
I've been really finding that so the DNA, the self-appreciation group has really helped me with that, because I've noticed, like, I've been reading everyone else's posts. Like, I try to read through what everybody says, but I don't always take a lot of time to respond to it and answer and get engaged in a big thing. And lately I've just been thinking, that's okay. I don't have to always do that. I always like it to let them know that I saw them, but to just, like, that group especially is for me to think about myself and like really give myself permission to really pay attention to that and share that. Yeah. Without feeling like I have to, be worrying about everybody else and what's going on with everybody else, and just for one small area of my life.
But it's good practice, because then it shows you what is possible for other areas. It kind of leaks out and kind of goes, oh, you know what? I can love and support other people without being responsible for their success, or without being responsible for them anymore, especially if you have, like, grown children. I have these little ones still, so I still feel, I'll still catch myself thinking, I have to help them, I have to do something extra in order to set them up for success. And for each of them, there's like a different for each one of my children, there's a different something that I think makes them really special, and my setting them up for success is just reminding them that that's going to be their particular key to success.
Yes.
Like
Just
each one of them has something.
pointing it out to them so that they see it, because they might not be noticing it either.
Yeah,
And you're modeling that for them too. You're modeling the self-appreciation for them, so they're going to start doing that on their own.
Well, that's something that I nurture all the time. Like I'm constantly nurturing them appreciating themselves and noticing when they do. I mean, that's one of the things, because it's like kind of like a hypnotic thing, right?
Yeah.
when you notice that they're doing something and you affirm that, I see you doing that, and then it may just be a close thing. It may not be exactly what you're, but then they go, oh wow, this brings me, positive feelings when I do this. I'll do it more often.
And it also brings to their awareness the fact that they're doing it, so they kind of like see it bounced back at them and go, oh, that's what I just did. Like they might not even be saying to themselves, I'm going to appreciate myself, but they just randomly say something and you go, oh, that was an appreciation, and they're like, oh, yeah, it was, and just makes it a little deeper.
Yeah. My youngest has got amazing habits, and I keep telling her that, if nothing else, that her habits will carry her to wherever she wants to go. I mean, she's 10, and that's the thing, and that's true for everyone. But she has got this ability to know what habits support her, and which habits don't support her. And she's such a habit kind of focused person. She'll have the habit of she's the only child that I have that doesn't fight me for brushing her teeth, because it's a habit that she wants to create, and that she's like, oh yeah, why wouldn't I brush my teeth? It's like, it makes me happy. And my other kids are like, yeah, hold my arm.
It's a waste of my time. Why do I have to stand here and do this?
Yeah, exactly. It's a waste of time. Oh my gosh.
But yes, the self-appreciation is, it's...
Yes, my hand is up.
I know.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Sorry, you go first, Mark. I wasn't even paying attention. Sorry.
Your expression never changes on the screen, so I didn't know how to read it.
Oh, my
Mark, I've got you on the screen.
Mine will wait. Continue, Andrea. I just wanted to get Dawn's unrelenting attention.
Okay, you got it. Well, she muted herself, so you're on, Mark.
No, Andrea, you muted. All right, okay. So 3 things come to mind when I delve into the idea of non-celebratory participation in the group, in life, in whatever. The first is balance. It's really easy for me to celebrate. So my concern is I will go way overboard and forget to be thoughtful, critical, observant, you name it. That too much of a good thing might just be too much of a good thing, particularly when it comes to my own being in balance and harmony. Number 2 relates to number 1, which would be I'm still learning how to tweet and Facebook post and communicate via Reader's Digest rather than epic raconteur story style. Really good at the latter, but almost everything now demands a shorter approach. Not one of my best skills without writing something out, refining it, and then delivering it. The third is that there's something very either competitive about it for me, or a projection of my judgments about people who do that. Let me see if I can explain that in English so you don't have that quizzical look on it.
Well, I want to hear it, but I...
It has to do with, obnoxiously loud former East Coast people in my life who are just ongoing PR machines, and nobody gets any airtime around them. And to break into that domination of the conversation is very difficult. And there used to be absolutely no recognition that you did break in. At least that was that was right back to, and now what's in it for me station for those people.
Right.
Two, and I tend to I tend to shut down. I tend to get real frustrated around those people, real judgmental, and rather than become as clever as I possibly could be, a master of verbal and mental aikido and judo, I just want to take the football away and go, I'm out of here.
Mm.
Not necessarily the most skillful response. Those are reasons. Those are constipations in my celebratory circuits.
I love it.
Use a mental and emotional enema. How's that for descriptive? Okay.
That's awesome.
Back to Andrea.
So, just regarding the, again, the whole self-appreciation and the modeling of it as parents. I'm noticing a difference here in the house with Ryan and Natalie because, what I didn't realize what I was modeling a while back was self-deprecation.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings very much unfortunate events and thoughts in our kids. And when I really got that and I've consciously shifted that, Kathy, you were saying, it is such an important thing for us to model for those around us. It's almost like the whole kind of respect thing. Well, we can respect others, but we really must respect ourselves first, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can appreciate others, but truly that appreciation must be an inner appreciation first for it to be that completely authentic appreciation outwardly. So it's just kind of my little observation, and thanks for allowing me to share.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's important to really note this and to be aware that how much whatever we're doing and how we treat ourselves is exactly we're modeling all the time how we want other people to treat us. That's really important to take on too. And true, how modeling how do we want the people in our environment to look at themselves. And if we're doing any kind of coaching work or if we're doing any kind of work where we're trying to help somebody with a problem, if they aren't, and this is what I have discovered, because I done this work for so long, success work. If somebody is not in a state of appreciation, if they can't get there, they cannot get to their success. Their feeling of success, they might have riches beyond anything that we would ever imagine, but they can't feel it because they don't think they're worthy. All the other mind stuff is going on because no one taught them to appreciate those little things. And kind of going back to what Mark said, when I was young, I had a friend who was really, really good at baseball, like the best baseball player in the whole universe. And my brother was actually a really good baseball player too, and he didn't have the same problem, but other people would tell this guy, this baseball player, that he shouldn't brag so much, And I remember being 17. I was an athletic trainer, and I remember being 17 and just looking at this guy going, you know what, the only thing that's going to keep you from your career is whether or not you can celebrate how awesome you are. Those other people are not going to make it. And this was the truth. You have to have a healthy dose of, rah, rah, rah for yourself to keep going when it gets tough. And, some people have some people it's an ego thing. It can be. But what I have found is, because I've worked with a lot of athletes too, and Mark has too, but the athletes, the harder they play and the more successful they get in their game, like at some point they reach that flow state, that oneness with the universe that we're all, searching for, and they touch it, more often than what we can ever imagine sometimes. We're living in the state of oneness and awareness. I think that that's what self-appreciation really does, is bring us an awareness of our, divine living in us, as opposed to it being out there someplace, somewhere else, and outside of me, that something out there that I appreciate. I mean, I believe that it really gets you into that state of whoa. And for some people, that scares the crap out of them because their conditioning has been that that's completely taboo. God living in me? Whoa, that's nasty. That's bad news. So, I mean, I remember the first time I told my mom that, don't you think that Christ lives in you? I mean, that's in the Bible. She was just horrified that I even said that. Horrified. So now she's a little more easy with it, but not the easiest thing for her to think of, even though it was not,
Well, accepting new concepts and new ways of thinking,
yeah.
Really, for the majority, does not come easy.
Right, and it's the
And I think when it does come easy, it's because that individual is at that exact moment in time at that place of abandoning all beliefs and all thoughts.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to ask something. So, when you're making reference to the whole athlete and them being in that flow zone and one with,
Yep.
Is it just in the place of the, how do I say this? The act itself in that sport, or is it carry through into all areas of their life?
Usually it doesn't carry over, which is why a lot of them end up having, hard times. The same thing with celebrity, that they feel that oneness, that connection when they're on screen or on the game, but they don't feel it anywhere else. So they don't recognize their success unless they're doing the thing that makes them feel the most complete.
Wow, that's so weird, eh?
Yeah, well, not weird. I mean, it's just, it's a whole society also that gives us this idea that we have to do something in order to be worthy. It's our work that makes us worthy, and they're just happen to choose work that has a stage and has an audience, and that they're, this is what I have come to understand from working with a couple of the athletes that I've worked with, is that when they're in that state, the audience disappears. Sometimes they are, they can feel the game happening. They're a part of the oneness of the entire game, not just the basketball. And it's not that the audience disappears; it's the audience becomes a piece of that game. Like it's the energy, like everything is really one. And you get off the court, and what happens? They go, what's next? They lose a contract. I'm working with a guy now who broke his, I don't know what he broke, knee or something, in college sports. Wasn't able to play anymore. What do you do? What do you do when you can't play anymore? When his whole self-identity was based on play. And not on, he had a solid spiritual life, I guess, to fall back on. But that's not the case for everyone. I think that's one of the reasons why athletes and the coaches try to build that into their game. Let's pray before the game, because it gives you something to fall back on when the game's not going. Kind of off topic, but not necessarily celebrating our success.
Angels in the outfield.
Yeah, angels in the outfield.
I will come back to further roto-rooter of my psyche. As I was writing down what I said and thinking about it, when I started thinking about the people I make judgments about, that early impress. Oh, Dawn, you just became a circle of.
I did that on purpose. Ignore that.
I am ignoring that, except it's very hypnotic, so stop staring. Okay, so, oh, now Kathy's there, the galactic goddess. I'm very easily distracted, boys and girls.
I'm thinking of you.
Well, you grabbed the screen just by thinking. You are a galactic goddess. I'm impressed. Okay, so back to the third point I made, thinking about these people who were an early impress, and I make judgments about those who are bombastic and celebrate themselves to the point of no one else has any airtime. As I look at that, I'm actually concerned I'll turn into that myself. That's what I'm defending against.
Yeah.
And I think about the way I present stuff many times in this kind of creative, just jump right in and start talking, rather than have a structure. I end up without an ending, and then I just kind of stop when I either ran out of steam, or when it's appropriate that nobody's listening, or whatever.
Right.
And then I'm waiting for some kind of closure, like some kind of response from the audience. So at one point, I don't want to do that to people, because it's taking over the airtime. It's not giving. It's performing, but there's no agreement that there's going to be a performance right then. And then there's this other thing that is this rather than a finish which is inclusive and giving and enriching everybody, it's checking to see that I did okay, rather than just being okay that I did it. Hope that's of any use. It's a little windy, and it's a little difficult for me to get it out, especially being distracted by floating galactic goddesses.
I think it was spot on.
Yeah.
I really got that, and especially the performer who wants to perform, the person who wants the stage and who hasn't been elected,
Right.
to be there, and hasn't been asked. I mean, this was a piece of we have talked about. I don't know if we have talked about it here, but human design. There's like these different flavors of energies, and most people have to be invited. They have to be invited, or if they're not invited, then their energy is so put offish, like completely in your face, don't want any of that, if you're, and this is why it's so difficult for people to give advice to people who aren't asking for it. Like, if your kids, we're noticing this with our family too, like if the kids aren't asking for it, it's almost like they rebel against it. And I know this was my case, so this is how I'm aware of it now. Because if I got advice when I was young, if I didn't ask for it, I would rebel against it. It would be like, oh, you didn't ask to give me that advice, and what you're saying, I'll show you, basically. I was a perfect rebel. I'll show you how it really works. And I would make it work. Like I would force myself to make it work the other way, just to prove somebody wrong. And, very good at that. So revealing my younger years' secrets. But being afraid of turning into that, I think that was a really deep, like dropping into the real understanding of, what stops so many people from their success is that what they view of other people who are successful, their view and their perception of other successful people isn't positive and isn't appreciating and isn't always, uplifting. And this is where, I have always believed that if you really want to be successful in a field, find some people in that field who are successful and doing it the way you would feel really comfortable doing it. because just because Michael Jordan may be the best basketball player of all time, you might not resonate with his personality, his attitude, the way he does things. But there might be another basketball player who was like perfect match for you. You know, like perfect match to inspire you to like that greatness that's inside of you. And you know what? We're not told, not, you know, guided with that kind of direction, that there's always a great model for something, you know, remotely in the field. If public speaking, I remember the first time my husband and I went to see someone in the personal development field together, and we actually saw his name shall be not named. I'll just say that. I'm not going to call this person out. What's that?
Now you've created mystery. I'll have to call you immediately after this is off. Wow, who was the no-name speaker that you...
But my husband was like, oh my gosh, Dawn, if you ever do that, ever, I will, you know, run up on stage, pull you off the stage, I will, you know, get you out of that environment as soon as possible. That was disgusting. This is what he said.
Oh, now I'm dying to know who it was.
I'm not. I'll just say this. It was somebody who was on The Secret, and that's it.
Does it start with a B?
No. Leave her alone.
No, you can tell us after we're off the air.
There's like 1 million people that were on that show, that movie. But my husband was like, no. You know, I get that you're, you know, teaching the law of attraction. I get that you're speaking to people. Don't do it that way, because he was so offended. I'm like, there's 1 million people out there who are doing it in a better way. But, you know, you have to sort it out, and not necessarily in that particular field. You know, like there's other speakers who do it much more eloquently, and much more other speakers who do it without being salesy. You know, there's just a whole lot, there's a whole world of people to look to model the results that you're looking to get, not necessarily the, you know, how to do it. So, I mean, I guess that's what I'm thinking, Mark, when you're talking about so afraid of turning into that. I mean, that could have been like the end of my journey. Like, I'm so afraid of turning into that, I will never speak again, right? Because what if I turn into that person? You know, and who knows? You know, it may have held me back at some points, and you know, maybe I would be so much farther down my road than I am now, speaking to much larger audiences than I am now. Who knows? But the awareness was there, that there is an example of somebody that I didn't want to be like, who was a horn tutor of their own. You know.
May I say something?
Yes.
So it's kind of like what Abraham always talks about. When we're so focused on what we don't want, that's what we just keep getting more of.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking away from this, then it's about finding that clarity of that individual we want to become, or we are becoming, or what is it about ourselves that we can find easily and effortlessly to appreciate and to celebrate and to build upon those things within ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're only focusing on what it is we want more of.
Yes. And that's not the easiest thing. I mean, the contrast was there. Most people will stop at the contrast, right? If I would have stopped at the contrast and said, oh my gosh, you're right, this industry sucks, you know, what am I doing? If I would have stopped at that, I would never have gone into, you know, a deeper understanding of who I am. I would never started developing my own material. I mean, like, so much stuff I would never have. And the truth is that you go from that contrast to looking for the yes and looking for the resonance, right? So you go from, I don't want that. No, thank you, universe. You know, like, no, thank you. What else do you got for me? You know? And then when you see somebody who's doing something that just feels really good, like you're like, oh, I really like the way she does that, or ooh, I really love the way I wanted to say yes to her program, but she didn't even ask me, you know? And you're like, oh, yes, that's what I want. That's how I want to do it. And when you see it and you recognize it out there in the world, and you understand that the world is a mirror reflection of what is possible for us, what's already in us. You're like, oh, cool, that's already in me. I can already do that. But then it's like practicing being yourself in that new awareness. Lots of words. I hope you got the real point of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just constantly looking and seeing what you're saying yes to. Like I was driving down the road today, and I saw this Tesla drive down the road. It was white, and it was just driving down the road, and it had a California license plate, and I'm like, that car drove here from California. And that was one of the things that I was like, oh, don't really want a Tesla, you know, trying to convince myself I don't want one, because I couldn't drive from Ohio to California. This guy's from California, he's driving in Ohio, and I just like woke up. I'm like, yes, I'll take some of that. I want that. I will take that. Yes, to the Tesla. You know, I love Teslas, but yeah. Anyway, so anytime you see something that you can say yes to, like, and know what you are saying yes to. Not the, like, you might not be saying yes to the whole package.
Mm.
You might not be saying yes to, I want that whole thing that they have. But you might just be saying yes to something. And if you're awake and aware enough and conscious enough to say, what is it that I'm really saying yes to? What is it that about that person that I appreciate? How are they doing this? How are they being? What is in resonance here? And can you look at it with your heart as opposed to looking at it with your mind, where your mind wants to be analytic and say, oh yeah, that's how I should do things, but really looking and saying, what is it that feels really good about what they're doing? And then, you know, journaling it, writing it down.
Mm. Yeah.
Not easy, but it's helpful. I have found it's really helpful, because although I didn't really like this particular person's way of selling, I really did like this person's particular way of being able to tell a story.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And not
look
that I
under
would
the
tell
hood sometimes. Look for a little more details.
yeah.
Mm,
Be willing to treasure hunt a little bit, because when you're looking for the awesomeness in life and the things that you really appreciate, it goes back to that, like, we're finding ourselves in the world around us through what we appreciate. And when we're doing it for ourselves, we're really putting that, like, oh, okay, I'm finding myself. I'm really discovering who I am by what I appreciate about myself. And for most people, if they get down to it, the things that they appreciate the most about themselves are their relationships and how they have relationships with other people, and especially their children. So that's what I found, that the relationship people have with their children, that brings them so much soul satisfaction, where when you ask, somebody, well, what should you appreciate? That may not be the first thing on their list, because they take it for granted. Not everyone. My guess is not you guys, but somebody out there might take it for granted. So, Kathy, what's on your mind? I can see something stirring.
Well, I was thinking about how you're saying that you see other people doing things and you're thinking, yes, that's something that I want to do, and there have been times where I was really mean to myself because I saw people doing things, and I may have told this before, but I don't know, but I saw people doing things. I see women doing, programs or teaching classes or being successful at something. And I've looked at that and I've kind of used that as a way sometimes to be mean to myself. Well, how come I'm not doing something like that? Why can't I do that? Why am I still sitting here doing nothing,
Because you
but what I realized, like one day I just had this flash of realization that that is like the universe is showing me what is possible. What I could do if I would do what I could do, you know, if I would get out of my own way enough to allow myself to do things, I would be able to do that too. So I started just kind of like shifting that whenever I find myself doing that, and I still find myself doing it sometimes, but I realize faster that it's like, oh yeah, that is something that I want, and I can do that. Yes, so it's like just like, yes, I'll have what she's having, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, and trying
that's
to.
powerful. That's powerful to say, yes, I'll have what she's having, or yes, I have what she has.
Instead of, why can't I have that too? And, you know, and feeling sorry for myself. It's like, well, I totally could have that.
Yeah, one of the biggest exercises that I have people go through when they're doing like money programming with me is like to get really clear on the fact that from then on, you know, it's like from now on, I want you to look at people who have lots of money, those people that you hate, and say that they should, you know, that they're the bully, that they should never have had this much money, or they bully their way to success, or, you know, da 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 da, and stop the criticism of people who have money, because the criticism is keeping it out of your field.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny that people think that, you know, that there's strong convictions that they don't want to be like somebody, and then when they attach it to something that's really irrelevant, like money, you know, that they make the attitude or the result, or they make the result about the attitude. And, you know, the person who's really crabby and a pain in the butt and a bully may have a perfect attitude about money, right?
Yeah. Maybe.
And like, I'm going to make it, I'm going to keep it, money comes to me, it's easy to make money. And you could scratch your head and go, why don't I have it? That person's, you know, blah, 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 call them names, name calling. But until we can stop that, you know, and that's a dis-ease. It's a mind being at, you know, a state of unease about two things it's trying to match up that don't match.
Right. Because it's about, Andrea was saying, sorry.
It's okay, I was interrupting you.
It's like what Andrea was saying, then it's more about what you don't want about money instead of what you do want about money. So I remember thinking about gas prices or something. It was something that was going on that first I was like railing against corporate America for the way they do things, and then I stopped and went, and just I thought about that. It's like, okay, so what do I want? It's like, wow, these people are really creative in the way they think up to make money. They're very creative and very, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And they're constantly coming up with new ways to make money instead of they're always ripping us off. You know, it's like they're always coming up with new ways, and like honoring that, because we might not like the way they do it, but that is what they're doing. They're just like, how can I make more money? You know, and they're coming up with ways to make more money.
All right, Mark, it's your turn. I got you screened.
My thought about the congruence between the bully and the person who has a perfect mindset to make money is that there is a larger concept that business is combat, competitive, and it's not win-win, it's win-lose. So the person who is the bully and aggressive and competitive has an easier time believing that she is going to beat everybody and make money.
And that's kind of just a belief too, right?
I'm not saying it's real. I'm just saying, you say, well, how can that be? How can they, you know, have their shit together on money? It's actually easy for them to have their shit together on money and be a bully, because in the old school of doing things, that makes perfect harmonic sense. It makes perfect attachment sense. I don't want to go there too often, but I don't want to go there at length. I just want to make that point.
Yeah, no.
I'm continuing to drill into my response to your original question, which was how do you prevent yourself from celebrating? What mechanisms do you use from doing that? Because I now look at the third one, which was the people who dominate the airtime. There's a couple of issues that come up. One is jealousy. I'm jealous of them doing that. I'm jealous of them being self-contained and completely unaware or uncaring about anybody else's needs at that point, or their seeming lack of respect for others, and their exaggerated self-importance. That's one. I'm jealous of that. I'd like to do that, but I don't allow myself to do that. Two is there's some kind of, it's not fair. It's, and I don't want to fight. I don't want to compete. I don't want to lose in that situation, and I don't want to come in second, so I'm just not going to play at all. Okay, there's some elements of that. I continue to flash back to one or two people in networking situations where I'm doing my best to really listen to people and draw people in, and then somebody just comes barging into a conversation, you know, blabbing about themselves and disrespecting whatever's going on. And I've actually had people say, you know, when I've called them on it, well, this is a network group. That's what we do. So, you know, I continue to feel at a disadvantage if I communicate in long stories or in, you know, enriched kind of presentations, and people just continually interrupt it. It quote unquote doesn't seem fair. The truth is, I might want to take a look at that and come up with some smaller stuff and rehearse smaller stuff, because that is the nature of the beast. You got 30 seconds maybe in one of those conversations, maybe 10 in a question and an answer, and just what I've taught myself before. It's not even foreplay. It's not even foreplay. It's just, oh, I'm interested in seeing you afterwards, and get in and get out and follow up later.
Yeah.
It was a little bit rambling, but the key points were, you know, it's unfair that people do this, so I'm not going to do it, but secretly I really want to do it, and so it creates a real off balance for me.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and you just revealed like a huge thing for you, that it's you have this programming that says it's easier for those people to do it that way than it is for me to do it my way.
I'm not sure I understood.
Like you just said, that they do it, they get money, and how they get money, the money part. So it's not just, you didn't just say it, but you said it before this part of the conversation. Is that, so you revealed like a gigantic, you know, subconscious piece of your, you know, your financial puzzle. I would say that the idea of easy wealth for you is attached to the idea of being a bully or being loud and obnoxious, and that's something that you don't want to do at some level. In some level, maybe you do. You got, I mean, not the bullying part, but you really do enjoy the stage. You know, like you really do thrive on stage. This is a part of who you are. And you know, there's a part of me that, you know, like the intuition that kind of just goes like, you gotta share this with Mark. Share this with Mark. Is for you to like be really in your powers to know where your stage is and fully own your stage when it is your stage, because it just feels like when you're not owning when you're on stage, and I know you do, and you're feeling like everything else is a little stage, which it may not be, that you're feeling knocked off your stage, and that may feel really yucky for you because of the way you are. You know, you are a stage master. You are somebody who likes to have that.
More value in that than you see. That you're assuming that I'm always there on stage. In fact, there is this off-balance thing, so I'm attempting to be on stage more when I'm not on stage, and then pulling back sometimes when I'm on stage.
Okay, you just opened.
It's like a contrary kind of thing.
I got it.
It's like not doing it when it's appropriate and doing it when it's not appropriate.
Yeah, that feels like a big, you know, like I hear the angels singing, like, yeah, you got it. Own the stage when you're owning the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And all these other little things won't matter as much because you'll feel completely full when you are on stage. and you'll feel like that soul satisfaction of, yeah, I did it. I showed up. I gave everything I have. I received everything that that is here for me to receive from being completely in ownership of this stage. Yeah.
Hoo-ha!
Singing, angel singing. Gotta love that.
Or blind Pacino roles. Hoo-ha!
So this week, I mean, this was great. And I appreciate you guys being so vulnerable, like just sharing what's truly, your truth about, what stands in the way between you and tooting your own horn and appreciating yourself, and what's the subconscious blocks? What are we really bringing into this when we, I know the evidence of what appreciating yourself and your work, how it's like it stops this madness for me. This is my truth. It stops the madness that I used to think was ambition. It felt like this exterior pressure to succeed. That's gone. The natural movement forward, the ambition to move forward and to keep growing is still there, but the pressure of it is not there anymore. And I think that's a huge win for me. So it's just sort of like I can breathe. I can breathe as I'm, writing, as I'm sharing, and as I'm coaching people, and as it gives me space to be myself, as opposed to trying to be something that I think I should.
Also, Dawn, it has the space for the joy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So much fun.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Way more fun now.
Yeah.
Way more fun.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And I dress differently. Like, I can wear, like, flowy things. I don't wear, like, the buttoned-up white shirt like I used to wear with the, the suit that I couldn't wait to get off when I left. Just because it wasn't me. That was what I thought I should wear in order to be successful.
Closing song.
Yay, let's hear one.
I've been working on my consciousness all the livelong day. I've been working on my consciousness because Dawn and Kathy and Robin and Andrea came to play. Can't you hear the whistle blowing? Rise up so early in the morning. Well, actually, it's 12 o'clock on the East Coast. Can't you hear the people shouting? Dawn, why won't you blow your horn? So we said, Dawn, why won't you blow? Andrew, why won't you blow? Kathy and Robin, why won't you blow your horn? Hey, Mark, won't you blow? Why won't you blow? Why won't you blow your horn? And we took a full hour to discuss it. Now we're done. So much fun. People dropping off like flies now. Kathy ran away when I started singing. Okay, that's all. Yay, us. Wow.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Or no, not next week. The week after next.
And as soon as we go off the air, we find out